The wrench slipped from my grease-stained fingers at exactly 11:47 p.m. when my phone buzzed with the text that would change everything. I was lying under my rusted Ford pickup in the garage, trying to fix a transmission leak that had been bleeding fluid all over our driveway for weeks. The concrete was cold against my back, and the fluorescent light above flickered like a dying heartbeat. "Business trip running late. Don't wait up. Love you." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at the screen, oil dripping onto my forehead from the truck's undercarriage. Danielle had been working late a lot recently. Her new promotion to project manager at Hartwell Industries meant longer hours, more responsibility, and apparently more overnight trips to Cleveland. At least, that's what she kept telling me. But here's the thing about being married to someone for 18 years. You develop a sixth sense about their lies. And this text? It reeked of bullshit stronger than the motor oil staining my coveralls. I rolled out from under the truck and wiped my hands on an old rag. The garage was my sanctuary, filled with the honest smell of metal and grease, where things either worked or they didn't. No corporate politics, no fake smiles, no backstabbing, just mechanical problems with mechanical solutions. My phone buzzed again. This time it was our 17-year-old daughter Madison, texting from her bedroom upstairs. "Dad, you still in the garage? Need to talk." I found her sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in an oversized hoodie despite the humid August night. Madison had inherited my dark hair and her mother's sharp green eyes, but lately those eyes held a cynicism that reminded me too much of myself. "What's up, kiddo?" She looked at me with that expression teenagers perfect, part pity, part exasperation. "Dad, you know Mom's not really on a business trip, right?" My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. "What do you mean?" "I mean I saw her Facebook check-in at Romano's restaurant 2 hours ago, with Eric." She showed me her phone screen. There was Danielle, smiling at the camera in a low-cut red dress I'd never seen before, sitting across from Eric Thompson, her 26-year-old assistant. Eric was everything I wasn't: tall, lean, with perfectly styled hair and teeth so white they could guide ships to shore. He'd been working under Danielle for 6 months, fresh out of college with his business degree and an ego the size of Lake Erie. "Maybe it's just a work dinner," I said, but even I didn't believe it. Madison gave me that look again. "Dad, come on. She's been working late 3 nights a week for the past month, always with Eric. And look at this." She scrolled through more photos. Danielle and Eric at a coffee shop, at a downtown bar, at what looked like a company picnic, standing closer together than any boss and assistant should. "How long have you known?" I asked. "About 2 weeks. I kept hoping I was wrong, but..." She shrugged. "I'm sorry, Dad." I sat down beside her on the steps, feeling like someone had punched me in the gut with a tire iron. The night air felt thick and suffocating. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking, and I could hear the low hum of traffic from the interstate. "Your mom and we've been having problems," I said finally. "I know. The walls aren't that thick." Of course she knew. Kids always know more than parents think they do. I thought about all the arguments Danielle and I had been having lately. How she'd been criticizing everything I did, the way I dressed, the way I talked, even the way I fixed things around the house. She'd started using phrases like personal growth and evolving as a person, which in marriage speak usually means I'm about to blow up our life. "What are you going to do?" Madison asked. I looked at my daughter, this smart, sarcastic kid who was about to start her senior year of high school, and felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not just anger, though there was plenty of that. Something more calculating. "I'm going to find out the truth," I said. Madison nodded. "Good, because if she thinks she can treat you like garbage and get away with it, she's got another thing coming." I kissed the top of her head. "Go to bed, kiddo. School starts next week. She stood up and headed toward the door, then turned back. Dad, when you find out the truth, don't let them make you the bad guy, okay? After she went inside, I sat on those steps for another hour, staring at my phone and thinking. Danielle's last text said she was in Cleveland, but Romano's was 20 minutes away in downtown Millfield. Eric lived in the Riverside Apartments, a trendy complex near the river where all the young professionals rented overpriced studios. I could drive over there right now, confront them, make a scene, but that would be the old Logan, the guy who fixed problems with his hands and his heart on his sleeve. The guy who'd been getting walked on for months, while his wife screwed around with a kid young enough to be her little brother. No, this called for something more strategic. I went back into the garage and fired up my laptop, an ancient Dell that took 5 minutes to boot up but still got the job done. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I started mapping out Danielle and Eric's digital footprints like I was planning a construction project. Every photo, every check-in, every tagged location. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. 3 months ago, they'd started appearing in photos together. 2 months ago, their work dinners became more frequent. Last month, Eric had posted a picture of an expensive watch, way out of his assistant's salary range, with the caption, "Thanks to my special someone for the early birthday gift." My wife had bought her boy toy, a Rolex. I was still scrolling through social media at 2 a.m. when I heard Danielle's car pull into the driveway. I quickly closed the laptop and grabbed a wrench, sliding back under the truck just as the garage door opened. "Logan, what are you still doing up?" I rolled out from under the truck, making sure to look surprised. "Oh, hey. Transmission leak was bugging me. How was Cleveland?" She was still wearing the red dress from the Facebook photo, and her hair looked like she'd been running her fingers through it. Her lipstick was gone, and there was something smug in her smile that made me want to throw the wrench at her head. Productive meeting. We landed the Morrison account. She yawned dramatically. "I'm exhausted. Going to bed." "Great job, honey. I'm proud of you." The lie came easily, and I watched her face for any sign of guilt. Nothing. She just smiled and headed inside, probably thinking about how clever she was. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close, then picked up my phone. Romano's restaurant was still posting on their Instagram story, last call for drinks, kitchen closing soon. I scrolled through the tagged photos from tonight and found what I was looking for. There they were, in the background of someone else's dinner photo, Danielle and Eric holding hands across the table like teenagers, her head thrown back, laughing at something he'd said, his hand on her knee. I screenshot the image and saved it to a new folder on my phone. Evidence. Then I sat there in my garage, surrounded by the tools of my trade, and started planning. Because Madison was right, I wasn't going to let them make me the bad guy. Not anymore. If Danielle wanted to play games, I'd show her how a blue-collar guy with 18 years of marriage experience and nothing left to lose could play them better. The wrench felt good in my hands, solid, reliable, unlike everything else in my life lately. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay in bed next to my cheating wife, listening to her breathe and planning my next move. Danielle slept like a baby. No tossing, no turning, no guilty conscience keeping her awake. Just the peaceful slumber of someone who thought she was getting away with murder. By 5 a.m., I'd given up on sleep entirely. I made coffee in the kitchen and sat at our breakfast table, the same one where we'd shared 18 years of morning conversations, where Madison had eaten countless bowls of cereal before school, where we'd planned family vacations and argued about bills and dreamed about the future. Now it just felt like evidence of a life that was already over. Danielle came down at 6:30, dressed in her power suit, navy blue with a skirt that was shorter than anything she'd worn during our marriage. She moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, grabbing her travel mug, checking her phone, applying lipstick in the reflection of the microwave door. "Working late again tonight," she said without looking at me. Eric and I need to prep for the Morrison presentation. There it was. Not even 24 hours after lying about Cleveland, and she was already setting up her next rendezvous. Sure thing, honey. I'll probably grab dinner with Red anyway. Red Murphy owned Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar 3 blocks from the factory where I worked. He was an ex-boxer with cauliflower ears and hands like sledgehammers, and he'd been my best friend since high school. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it was Red. Sounds good. Danielle kissed my cheek, a quick, perfunctory peck that felt like a business transaction. Love you. Love you too. Another lie. Maybe the last one I'd ever tell her. After she left, I called in sick to work. 23 years at Millfield Engineering, and I'd used maybe 15 sick days total. My supervisor, Jim Kowalski, didn't even question it. Take care of yourself, Logan. You've been looking rough lately. Rough. That was one way to put it. I spent the morning doing research. Real research, not just scrolling through Facebook. I drove past Eric's apartment complex and noted the security cameras, the visitor parking, the sight lines from the street. I went to Romano's and chatted with the hostess, a chatty college girl who was happy to tell me about their regular customers. Oh yeah, the older woman and the young guy. They're in here twice a week. Always request table 12. It's more private. She pays every time. Always tips really well. My wife was buying dinner for her boyfriend with our joint checking account. From Romano's, I drove to Danielle's office building. Hartwell Industries occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel and corporate ambition. I'd been there exactly twice, once for a Christmas party 3 years ago, and once to pick up Danielle when her car was in the shop. The parking garage was perfect for surveillance. I found a spot with a clear view of the exit and settled in to wait. At 11:47 a.m., Eric's silver BMW pulled out of the garage, alone. At 12:15 p.m., Danielle's white Lexus followed. They were meeting for lunch, just like they probably did every day. Keeping it professional at the office, then sneaking off to play house whenever they could. I followed them to a little café on the east side of town, staying far enough back to avoid detection. Through the window, I watched them share a sandwich and laugh at each other's jokes. Danielle kept touching his arm, his hand, his face. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just connection. This wasn't some midlife crisis fling or a moment of weakness. Danielle was in love with this kid. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Madison, calling from school. Dad, are you okay? Mom said you called in sick. Just a headache, kiddo. Nothing serious. Where are you? You sound weird. I looked through the cafe window at my wife feeding strawberries to her boyfriend. Just running some errands. How's school? Boring. Dad, can I ask you something? Shoot. Are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hit me like a sucker punch. Why would you ask that? Because you've been sleeping in the guest room for 2 weeks, and this morning Mom was humming while she got dressed. She only hums when she's happy, and she hasn't been happy at home in forever. Smart kid. Too smart for her own good. Your mom and I are going through some stuff, I said. But whatever happens, it's not your fault. And we both love you more than anything. Okay? Okay. But Dad? Yeah? Whatever you're planning, be careful. She hung up before I could ask what she meant. I sat in my truck, watching my wife's affair play out through a cafe window, and felt something shift inside me. Madison was right. I was planning something. I just wasn't sure what yet. That evening, I met Red at his bar. Murphy's Tavern was exactly what you'd expect from a dive bar owned by an ex-boxer. Dim lighting, scarred wooden tables, and the kind of atmosphere where men came to drink away their problems without judgment. Red took one look at me and poured 2 whiskeys without being asked. You look like hell, Logan. Feel worse. I told him everything. The texts, the photos, the surveillance, the lies. Red listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or grunting in sympathy. When I finished, he drained his whiskey and poured 2 more. "So, what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know. Confront her? File for divorce? Kick the shit out of pretty boy Eric?" "All bad ideas," Red said. "Confronting her just gives her time to cover her tracks and make you look like the crazy husband. Divorce means she gets half of everything, including your daughter, and assault charges mean you lose everything. So, what do you suggest?" Red smiled, and for a moment I could see the boxer he used to be, calculating, patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "You want to hurt them? Really hurt them? You don't go for the body, you go for what matters most." "Which is?" "Their reputation, their careers, their precious little fantasy that they're the good guys in this story." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You gather evidence, real evidence, not just Facebook photos. You document everything. Dates, times, places, expenses. You build a case like you're a prosecutor going after the mafia. And then? Then you destroy them. Publicly. Completely. You make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people they are." I thought about Danielle's smug smile that morning, about Eric's expensive watch, about my daughter asking if we were getting divorced. "That's pretty cold, Red." "They started this war, Logan. You're just going to finish it." We drank until closing time, planning and plotting like generals before a battle. By the time I stumbled home at 2 a.m., I had a strategy. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't nice, but it was going to be effective. Danielle was already asleep, still wearing the same clothes from her late night at the office. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, and for a moment I was tempted to check her messages. But that would be too risky. If she caught me, it would blow everything. Instead, I went to the guest room and opened my laptop. I created a new email account under a fake name, then started researching private investigators. I didn't need to hire one. That was too expensive and too risky. But I could learn their techniques. How to track someone without being detected, how to document infidelity, how to gather evidence that would hold up in court. By sunrise, I had a plan, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of my own life. Danielle wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that her blue-collar husband knew how to play them too. And I played for keeps. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost in my own life. I went to work, came home, had dinner with Madison, and pretended everything was normal. But underneath the surface, I was building a case against my wife and her boyfriend that would have made a federal prosecutor proud. I bought a small digital recorder and hid it in Danielle's car. Nothing illegal. It was half mine anyway, and Ohio was a one-party consent state. I installed a GPS tracker app on the old iPhone she thought I'd thrown away, then slipped it into her purse. I even set up a fake social media account and started following Eric's friends, learning his patterns and habits. The evidence was damning. Danielle and Eric were meeting at least 4 times a week, lunches, dinners, and overnight stays at a cheap motel on Route 9. She was spending our money on expensive gifts for him, clothes, electronics, even payments on his BMW. According to the credit card statements I started monitoring, she'd blown through nearly $8,000 in 2 months, but the real gold mine was the audio recordings. "I can't keep lying to Logan," Danielle said during one conversation in her car. Madison starting to ask questions. "So tell him you want a divorce," Eric replied. "You said yourself the marriage has been over for years." "It's not that simple. Logan's not stupid, and he's not going to just roll over. If he finds out about us before I'm ready..." "Before you're ready for what?" "To make sure I get everything I deserve. The house, custody of Madison, alimony. I've been married to that man for 18 years. I've earned it." That conversation was recorded on a Tuesday. By Friday, I had 3 more hours of similar material. My loving wife wasn't just cheating, she was planning to take me to the cleaners in divorce court. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning. Madison was at her friend Sarah's house, and Danielle announced she was going shopping with her sister in Cleveland. Another lie. Her sister had posted photos from her vacation in Florida all week. "I might stay overnight," Danielle said, not even bothering to look at me as she packed her bag. "Linda wants to hit the outlet malls early tomorrow." "Sure thing. Drive safe." I waited until her car was out of sight, then grabbed my keys. The GPS tracker showed her heading toward Eric's apartment, just like I knew it would. I drove to Murphy's Tavern and found Red restocking beer in the cooler. "She's at Loverboy's place," I said without preamble. "You sure?" I showed him the GPS app on my phone. "They're probably planning their weekend getaway right now." Red straightened up and cracked his knuckles. "So, what's the plan?" "I'm going to get some real evidence. Photos, video, something that will hold up in court." "You want backup?" I thought about it. Having Red there would be safer, but it would also make things more complicated if we got caught. "No, this is something I need to do myself." Red nodded and pulled 2 beers from the cooler. "Then let's talk strategy." An hour later, I was parked across the street from Eric's apartment complex, a high-end place called Riverside Commons, the kind of place where young professionals paid too much rent for granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. Eric lived in Unit 3B, 3rd floor, corner apartment with a balcony overlooking the river. I'd done my homework. I knew his schedule, his neighbors, even his Wi-Fi password. It was BMW 2019, because of course it was. Danielle's Lexus was parked in the visitor space, right next to Eric's BMW. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I waited until dark, then made my move. The apartment complex had security cameras, but they were focused on the entrances and parking areas. The maintenance areas were blind spots, and I knew how to move through them without being seen. 23 years of construction work teaches you things about buildings that most people never learn. Where the support beams are, how the electrical systems work, which walls are load-bearing and which ones are just for show. It also teaches you how to get into places you're not supposed to be. The building's utility room was in the basement, accessed through a door that was supposed to be locked, but wasn't. From there, I could access the building's ventilation system and work my way up to the 3rd floor. I'm not proud of what I did next. Crawling through air ducts like some kind of deranged action hero wasn't exactly how I'd planned to spend my Saturday night. But desperate times called for desperate measures. Eric's apartment shared a ventilation shaft with the unit next door. The vent cover in his bedroom was loose, probably hadn't been properly secured since the building was constructed. I was able to remove it just enough to get a clear view of the room, and there they were. Danielle and Eric in his king-size bed, going at it like teenagers. My wife of 18 years, the mother of my child, writhing around with a kid who was barely older than our daughter. I took photos, video, enough evidence to prove infidelity beyond any doubt. But more than that, I listened to them talk afterward. "When are you going to tell Logan?" Eric asked, running his fingers through Danielle's hair. "Soon. I've been documenting his behavior, building a case for emotional abuse. My lawyer says it will help with custody and alimony." "What kind of behavior?" "His temper, his drinking, the way he talks to me. I've been keeping a journal, recording our arguments. By the time I'm done, Logan will look like a monster." Eric laughed. "Poor bastard probably has no idea what's coming." "None at all. He's so trusting, so naive. He actually believes I'm working late." They both laughed at that. My wife and her boyfriend, laughing at how stupid and trusting I was. That's when something cold and hard settled in my chest. Not just anger. I'd been angry for weeks. This was something else, something calculating and patient and absolutely ruthless. I took more photos, more video. Then I carefully replaced the vent cover and made my way back through the building's mechanical spaces. By the time I reached my truck, I had enough evidence to destroy both of them. But evidence was just the beginning. I drove home and spent the rest of the night organizing everything I'd collected. Photos, videos, audio recordings, financial records, GPS data. I created a timeline of their affair, complete with dates, times, and locations. I documented every lie Danielle had told, every dollar she'd spent on Eric, every night she'd claimed to be working late. By sunrise, I had a comprehensive dossier that would make a private investigator jealous. But I still wasn't ready to make my move. Not yet. Because Red was right. If you really want to hurt someone, you don't just expose their secrets. You destroy their reputation, their career, their entire carefully constructed life. And I was just getting started. Madison came home Sunday afternoon and found me in the garage working on my truck's transmission. She sat on an overturned crate and watched me work, the way she used to when she was little. "Mom's not really shopping with Aunt Linda, is she?" she said finally. I looked up from the engine. "What makes you say that?" "Aunt Linda posted photos from Disney World yesterday. She's been in Florida all week." Smart kid. Too smart. "No," I said. "She's not shopping with your aunt." Madison nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Are you going to confront her?" "Eventually." "Good, because I'm tired of pretending everything's okay when it's not." I wiped my hands on a rag and sat down next to my daughter. "Madison, I need you to know that whatever happens between your mom and me, it's not your fault. And no matter what, you're the most important thing in my life." She leaned against my shoulder. "I know, Dad. Just, when you do whatever you're planning, make sure you win." "What makes you think I'm planning something?" She smiled, an expression that was part teenager, part something much older and wiser. "Because you're your daughter's father, and I would be planning something too." That night, Danielle came home full of stories about her shopping trip. The outlets in Cleveland, lunch with Linda, the traffic on I-90. She even showed me a few shopping bags she'd probably bought on her way home to sell the lie. "Sounds like fun," I said. "I missed you." "Missed you too." We went to bed like a normal married couple. Danielle fell asleep quickly, probably exhausted from her weekend with Eric. I lay awake next to her, thinking about everything I'd learned, everything I'd seen. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning to destroy me in divorce court, take my daughter, and walk away with half of everything I'd worked for my entire adult life. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the blue-collar guy she'd been married to for 18 years. The guy who knew how to fix things, how to build things, how to take something broken and make it work again. She was about to learn that I knew how to break things too, and I was very, very good at it. 3 days later, everything went to hell. I was at work installing electrical systems in a new office building downtown when my phone rang. It was Madison, and she was crying. "Dad, you need to come home now." I dropped my tools and ran for the parking lot. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "It's Mom. She brought him here." "Brought who where?" "Eric. She brought Eric to our house. They're in your bedroom, Dad. They're in your bed." I was already in my truck, tires squealing as I pulled out of the construction site. "Where are you?" "Sarah's house. I came home for lunch and heard them. I couldn't stay there." "Good girl. Stay at Sarah's until I call you." "Dad, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to handle it." I hung up and called Red. He answered on the first ring. "Murphy's Tavern, this is Red." "It's Logan. I need you to meet me at my house now." "What's wrong?" "Danielle brought her boyfriend home. They're in my bed." Red was quiet for a moment. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. "Red, bring your camera." The drive home took forever and no time at all. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and I kept seeing Madison's face when she called. My 17-year-old daughter, traumatized by walking in on her mother's affair in the house where she'd grown up. That was unforgivable. I pulled into my driveway behind Danielle's Lexus and Eric's BMW. They were parked side by side like they owned the place. Red's pickup was already there, and he was waiting for me by the front door. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I'm sure." We went inside together. The house was quiet except for sounds coming from upstairs, my wife and her boyfriend, going at it in the bed I'd shared with her for 18 years. Red had his phone out, recording everything, the cars in the driveway, the clothes scattered on the living room floor, the sounds from upstairs. "Evidence," he said quietly. I nodded and started up the stairs. Each step felt like walking through quicksand, but I kept going. The bedroom door was half open, and I could see them through the gap. Danielle was on top, her back to the door. Eric was underneath her, his hands on her hips. They were so lost in their own little world that they didn't hear us coming. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Having fun?" Danielle screamed and rolled off Eric, grabbing for the sheet. Eric just stared at me like a deer in headlights, his mouth hanging open. "Logan, what are you doing home?" "It's my house, Danielle. I can come home whenever I want." I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. Inside, I was a hurricane of rage and betrayal, but on the outside, I was ice cold. Eric finally found his voice. "Look, man, I can explain." "Explain what? How you've been screwing my wife in my bed? How you've been using my money to pay for your car? How you two have been planning to take me to the cleaners in divorce court?" Both of them went pale. Danielle wrapped the sheet around herself and stood up. "You've been spying on us." "I've been documenting the truth. There's a difference." Red stepped into the room, still recording. "Smile for the camera, folks. This is going to make great evidence in court." "You can't record us without permission," Eric shouted. "Actually, I can," I said. "This is my house, and Ohio is a one-party consent state. Everything you've said and done here is perfectly legal to record." Danielle's face went from pale to furious. "You bastard! You set this up." "No, Danielle. You set this up when you decided to cheat on me with a kid young enough to be your son. I just documented it." Eric was scrambling for his clothes, trying to get dressed while Red kept filming. "This is harassment." "No, Eric. Harassment is what you've been doing to my family. This is justice." I walked over to my dresser and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were copies of everything. Photos, videos, audio recordings, financial records. I tossed it on the bed. "Your affair started 3 months ago. You've been meeting at Romano's restaurant, the Sunset Motel on Route 9, and Eric's apartment. Danielle, you've spent $8,247 of our joint money on gifts for your boyfriend. You've also been keeping a fake journal, documenting supposed emotional abuse to use against me in divorce proceedings." Danielle's mouth fell open. "How do you—" "I know everything, Danielle. Every lie, every secret rendezvous, every plan you've made to destroy me. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Eric had managed to get his pants on and was heading for the door. "I'm out of here." "No, you're not." Red stepped into the doorway, blocking Eric's escape. At 6'2" and 220 pounds of ex-boxer muscle, Red was not someone you wanted to argue with. "Sit down, pretty boy. We're not done talking." Eric sat down on the edge of the bed, looking like he was about to throw up. Danielle clutched the sheet tighter around herself. "What do you want, Logan?" "I want the truth, all of it. No more lies, no more games. Just the truth." Danielle looked at Eric, then back at me. For a moment, I thought she might actually come clean. But then her expression hardened, and I saw the woman she'd really become. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes, I'm having an affair. Yes, I'm in love with Eric. And yes, I want a divorce." "And the journal? The fake abuse allegations?" She lifted her chin defiantly. I did what I had to do to protect myself and my daughter. Our daughter, Danielle. She's our daughter. And she's the one who called me today, crying because she walked in on you two. For the first time, Danielle looked ashamed. Madison was supposed to be at school. She came home for lunch and found her mother acting like a whore in the house where she grew up. "Don't you dare call me!" What? A whore? What would you call a married woman who brings her boyfriend to the family home and screws him in her husband's bed? Eric finally spoke up. Look, we didn't mean for it to happen this way. I turned to face him. Really? So, when exactly did you mean for it to happen? When you were buying expensive watches with my wife's money? When you were laughing about how stupid and trusting I was? When you were planning to help her frame me for abuse? I have recordings, Eric, hours of them. You and Danielle planning my destruction like it was a business meeting. Red was still filming everything. This is better than reality TV, he muttered. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and realized I didn't know this person anymore. The woman I'd married, the mother of my child, was gone. In her place was a stranger who was willing to destroy everything we'd built together for a fling with a kid half her age. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Eric, you're going to get dressed and get out of my house. If I ever see you here again, or anywhere near my daughter, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. You can't. I can, and I will. Danielle, you have until Sunday to move out. Take whatever you want, but leave the credit cards and the checkbook. As of right now, you're cut off from our joint accounts. You can't do that. I already did it. Called the bank this morning. That was a lie, but it sounded good. I'll fight you on this, Logan. I'll take you for everything you're worth. I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. No, Danielle, you won't. Because if you try to fight me, I'll release every photo, every video, every recording to everyone we know. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, Madison school. Everyone will know exactly what kind of person you really are. That's blackmail. No, that's consequences. You made your choices, now you get to live with them. Eric had finished getting dressed and was edging toward the door. Danielle, maybe we should— Shut up, Eric, she snapped. This is all your fault. My fault? You're the one who said your marriage was over. I said a lot of things. And just like that, they turned on each other. 18 years of marriage destroyed for a relationship that couldn't survive 5 minutes of pressure. I watched them argue and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Not for what I was doing to them, but for how pathetic they both were. Red, I think we've got enough footage. More than enough. I looked at Danielle one last time. I loved you for 18 years. I would have done anything for you, but you threw it all away for this. I gestured at Eric, who was now openly crying. I hope it was worth it. I walked out of my bedroom and down the stairs, Red right behind me. We could hear them still arguing as we left the house. So what now? Red asked as we stood in the driveway. Now I call my lawyer, and then I call Madison and tell her it's safe to come home. What about them? I looked back at the house where I'd spent the last 18 years of my life. They made their bed, now they get to lie in it. But as I drove away to pick up my daughter, I knew this was just the beginning. Danielle wasn't going to go quietly, and Eric wasn't going to just disappear. They'd started a war, and I was going to finish it. But first I had to take care of Madison, because no matter what happened between Danielle and me, our daughter was the only thing that really mattered. Everything else was just revenge. The next 2 weeks were like living in a war zone. Danielle hired a lawyer, a shark named Patricia Vance, who specialized in high-conflict divorces and had a reputation for destroying husbands in court. She moved in with Eric temporarily, then into a downtown apartment that cost more per month than our mortgage. But she'd underestimated how much ammunition I'd gathered. My lawyer, Tom Bradley, was a soft-spoken guy who looked like an accountant, but fought like a pit bull. When I showed him my evidence, his eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Logan, this is the most comprehensive infidelity documentation I've ever seen. Audio recordings, video evidence, financial records, GPS tracking data. It's like you built a federal case. Will it hold up in court? Hold up? This won't even make it to court. When the other side sees what you have, they'll settle immediately. He was right. Patricia Vance called for a meeting 3 days later. We met at Tom's office downtown, neutral ground. Danielle showed up looking like she was heading to a board meeting, all power suit and cold confidence. Eric came with her, which surprised me. Most guys would have run for the hills by now. Patricia Vance was exactly what I'd expected, mid-50s, steel gray hair, and the kind of smile that could cut glass. She laid out Danielle's demands like she was reading a grocery list. Mrs. Rivers is seeking full custody of the minor child, the marital home, alimony of $3,000 per month, and 50% of all marital assets. In return, she's willing to allow Mr. Rivers supervised visitation with his daughter. Tom smiled and slid a tablet across the table. Perhaps you should watch this first. It was the video from Eric's apartment. Danielle and Eric in bed together, talking about their plans to frame me for abuse and take me for everything I was worth. Patricia's face went pale. Danielle looked like she was going to be sick. Eric just stared at the table. "There's more," Tom said, pulling out a thick folder. Audio recordings, photographs, financial records documenting Mrs. Rivers' use of marital funds to support her extramarital relationship, GPS tracking data, social media evidence. Shall I continue? "That's illegal surveillance," Patricia said, but her heart wasn't in it. "Actually, it's not. Ohio is a one-party consent state for audio recordings. The GPS tracking was done on a jointly owned vehicle. The photographs were taken in public places or with the consent of the property owner. Everything here is completely admissible." I watched Danielle's face as the reality sank in. Her carefully planned destruction of my life had just collapsed like a house of cards. "Here are Mr. Rivers's terms," Tom continued. "Mrs. Rivers will receive no alimony. Custody will be joint, with the primary residence remaining with Mr. Rivers since the minor child has expressed a preference to stay in the family home. Mrs. Rivers may retain her personal belongings and her vehicle. Mr. Rivers will keep the house, his retirement accounts, and all other marital assets." "That's ridiculous," Patricia sputtered. "My client is entitled to—" "Your client is entitled to nothing," Tom interrupted. "She committed adultery, used marital funds to support her paramour, and attempted to frame her husband for domestic abuse. If this goes to court, she'll be lucky to get supervised visitation." Eric finally spoke up. "What about me?" Tom looked at him like he was something stuck to his shoe. "Mr. Thompson, you're not party to these divorce proceedings. However, Mr. Rivers is prepared to file a civil suit against you for alienation of affection and criminal conversation. Ohio still recognizes both torts." "What does that mean?" Eric asked. "It means he can sue you for stealing his wife," I said. "And given the evidence we have, he'd probably win." The meeting ended with Patricia asking for time to review the evidence and consult with her client. But I could see in Danielle's eyes that she knew it was over. As everyone was leaving, Danielle grabbed my arm. "Logan, please. We can work this out. We don't have to destroy each other." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. No anger, no love, no regret, just emptiness. "You already destroyed us, Danielle. I'm just cleaning up the mess." That weekend, Madison and I had dinner at Murphy's Tavern. Red grilled burgers while we sat at the bar, and for the first time in months, my daughter seemed relaxed. "So, Mom's really moving out?" she asked. "Looks that way." Good. I was tired of pretending everything was okay. "You don't have to pretend anymore, kiddo, about anything." She smiled. A real smile, not the fake one she'd been wearing for weeks. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Are you okay? Really okay?" I thought about it. Was I okay? My marriage was over. My wife had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and I was about to become a single father. But sitting there with my daughter, watching Red flip burgers and listening to the jukebox play old country songs, I realized something. I felt free. "Yeah, kiddo. I think I'm going to be just fine." The final confrontation came the following Tuesday. I was working late in my garage when Eric showed up at my house. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't." "Please, Logan, just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let him into the garage. He sat on an overturned crate while I continued working on my truck. "Danielle left me," he said finally. "Smart woman, took her long enough. She said it was my fault everything fell apart. Said if I hadn't pushed her to bring me to your house." "Eric, let me save you some time. I don't care about your relationship problems. I don't care that Danielle dumped you. I don't care that your life is falling apart. But I love her." I stopped working and looked at him. "You love her? You're 26 years old. You don't know what love is. I know what I feel. What you feel is lust mixed with the thrill of stealing another man's wife. That's not love, that's just being an asshole." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "What happens now? Now you disappear. You find another job, preferably in another state. You stay away from my wife, my daughter, and me. And maybe, if you're very lucky, I won't sue you into bankruptcy." "And if I don't?" I set down my wrench and turned to face him fully. "Eric, I spent 18 years building a life with that woman. 18 years of marriage, raising a daughter, building a home, planning for the future. You destroyed all of that for a few months of fun." "I didn't mean—" "I don't care what you meant. I care what you did. And what you did was declare war on my family. So let me be very clear about something. I am not a violent man, but I am a thorough one. If you don't disappear, I will make it my life's mission to destroy you. I will sue you. I will ruin your career. I will make sure everyone you've ever met knows exactly what kind of person you are." I picked up my wrench and went back to work on the truck. "The choice is yours, Eric, but choose quickly. My patience is running out." He left without another word. 2 days later, I heard from Tom that Eric had taken a job in Phoenix and was moving immediately. Danielle signed the divorce papers without any changes to the terms we'd proposed. The whole thing was over in less than a month. On the day Danielle moved out of our house, Madison and I sat on the front porch and watched the movers load her belongings into a truck. 18 years of marriage, reduced to a few boxes and suitcases. "Do you miss her?" Madison asked. I thought about it honestly. I miss who she used to be, but that person's been gone for a long time. "Are you going to date other people?" "Eventually, maybe. Right now, I'm focused on you and me, figuring out our new normal." She leaned against my shoulder. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, kiddo." Danielle came over to say goodbye. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. The confident, cruel woman from the lawyer's office was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost and alone. "Logan, I'm sorry for everything. I know you are. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" I looked at her. This woman who'd shared my bed for 18 years, who'd given me the most precious thing in my life, who'd also betrayed me in the most devastating way possible. "I don't know, Danielle. Maybe someday. But not today." She nodded and walked away. I watched the moving truck drive off with the last remnants of my marriage and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. That night, Madison and I ordered pizza and watched movies until midnight. We talked about her senior year, college plans, and what we wanted to do with the extra space in the house. For the first time in months, we laughed together. As I was tucking her into bed, Madison said something that surprised me. "Dad, I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For not letting them make you the bad guy, for fighting back." "Sometimes fighting back is the only option, kiddo." "I know. And sometimes the good guys have to be the villains to win." I kissed her forehead and turned off the light. As I walked back to my room, the master bedroom that was finally mine again, I thought about what she'd said. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been the villain in this story. I'd spied on my wife, recorded her private conversations, and systematically destroyed her relationship with Eric. I'd used every dirty trick in the book to win. But you know what? I didn't care. They'd started a war, and I'd finished it. They'd tried to destroy my life, and I'd turned the tables on them. They'd underestimated the blue-collar guy who fixed things for a living. Their mistake. I slept better that night than I had in months. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I was actually looking forward to tomorrow. Because tomorrow was the first day of my new life. A life where I didn't have to pretend everything was okay when it wasn't. A life where I could focus on being the father my daughter deserved. A life where I was finally free. Danielle and Eric had wanted to play games with a blue-collar guy who they thought was too stupid and trusting to fight back. They'd learned the hard way that they were wrong. And I'd learned something too. Sometimes the only way to win is to become the villain. So that's exactly what I did.